Looking for a protein shake that tastes as good as it performs? Meet Rockin' Protein Max. Packed with 50 grams of fuel, it'll help you keep up when your day won't slow down. And because it's always creamy and never chalky, every sip tastes great. Even better, it's lactose-free and has 0 added sugar. It's not every day you find a protein shake you actually want to finish. Catch Rockin' Protein in the dairy cooler at a store near you. Rockin' Protein and Shamrock Farms are registered trademarks of Shamrock Foods Company.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And literally just coming out moments ago here on the Rita Cosby Show, President Trump in an announcement, there will be a major update on the war on Iran tomorrow night, as President Trump is expected to address the nation around 9 p.m. Eastern time. That will be a biggie. Just coming out that the president will be addressing the nation tomorrow night with, quote, an important update on the war on Iran, as people wondering what's the timetable, where is this headed, what has been accomplished, and what has yet to be done. I think this is going to be very important. And who better than President Trump to communicate that message to the American public and to explain to all, not just those who are listening to him, but to those who try to spin it, like many in the mainstream media. I cannot believe some of the things I've been hearing in the last 2.5 weeks or so. It's been shocking. It seems like a number of people are voting against America. Certainly some Democrats seem to be, if you will. They're saying, oh, it's going to be another failed Mideast war. Remember Hakeem Jeffries said that on the first day of the attacks. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's disgraceful. But what I do think a national address does is it essentially causes all of the networks to cover it. So maybe some people who've only been hearing some spin from places like MS Now and elsewhere, maybe they'll hear the real full story from the president himself. And they'll say, wow, maybe this really does make sense to take out an evil terrorist regime. Wow, maybe this does make sense to make sure that they don't get nuclear weapons. Wow, maybe this is important that we dismantle their missile program so they can't send a nuclear warhead to Europe or maybe to the United States one day. So I think it's powerful. I think it's the right thing to do. And I say bravo to President Trump. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. What do you think he needs to say tomorrow night to the American public so they're assured that, yes, the mission was worthy. Yes, the mission has had a lot of success. And also for them to understand what's left. Not to get out too soon, but also to not drag it out so it turns out to go on a lot longer than expected. So it accomplishes the goals, but also make sure that it's not too hastily done. So we don't replace a Hitler with a Himmler, as Netanyahu has said so eloquently. The last thing you want to do, you go through all of this, and then you've got a madman who goes back into power there, and you're not sure what happened to the enriched uranium. There are so many things right now that are on the table, and the stakes couldn't be higher. And I've always applauded President Trump for his courage of going into Iran to dismantle this regime. I thought the bombs that took place, those B-2 bombers that they did last June, those 3 strikes on those different locations, including the Natanz nuclear plant, those were ones for the history book. And I think going in now is also one for the history book. And I think his courage and his steadfastness and his determination to just most importantly protect the American public needs to go down in the history books as one of the greatest feats after we've had some very wimpy presidents before him. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And here is President Trump just a little bit ago, because he was asked in the Oval Office, what's the timetable? That's what the press keeps asking. What's next? How much longer is this going to go? And what kind of success have you had? And take a listen to what President said in terms of how much longer. You know, President Trump's always a straight shooter. That's the one thing. when Biden was asked a question, it was like he was swallowing marbles. You couldn't tell what he was saying. And some of the others, you didn't know if what they were saying was accurate or not. With President Trump, he just lays it all out there. And he essentially said he thinks 2 weeks and maybe a few days after that, and that's about it, is how he described it. And that's probably going to be right on the mark. So here is what the president said just a few moments ago. Take a listen to what President Trump said.
I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. We, as you probably read or wrote, we knocked out. Excuse me.
Pardon interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I think with 2 or 3 weeks. We'll leave because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, "Oh, it's unsafe." It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship. Or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. We've got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. Their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change. We have nice new leaders.
So what's your reaction to what you heard from President Trump? And also, what do you think he needs to say to the American public? Because as I mentioned, it's a rare opportunity to have some of the doubters that are always doubting everything to make the case and explain why he has gone into Iran, why they've had extraordinary success, and what's left. So the American public understands the stakes. I actually think it's a very smart move. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Joaquin, on line one. And Joaquin, first, tell me your reaction to President Trump addressing the nation tomorrow night.
Yes, Tom, this is extremely important because, I have a pessimistic...
Hey, Joaquin, you sound terrible. You sound terrible. Can you fix it? You sound terrible, Joaquin. Call us back, Joaquin. Try to figure it out. Call us back because you're always great. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn, line 4. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, Rita. Thanks for taking my call. Well, President Trump just mentioned about 15 to 20 years to rebuild. And I'm very concerned. I think President Trump is possibly making a big mistake. When you have Lindsey Graham, who's a war hawk, talking about a peace deal, that can only mean one thing. It could mean that the military-industrial complex is not happy about the conflict being totally resolved. And Mark Levin made a very good point. He compared this to World War I. You can't leave Germany like in World War I to fester, and that led to Hitler in World War II. You can't just leave the situation the way it is. You have to have a regime in there that's going to be reasonable. And also, he promised about all the tens of thousands of protesters that he was going to help them out and not just lead them up the creek. Now, I also, President Trump, he should not stop. If the United States, he insists on stopping the United States from finishing the job. He says, well, his job was just to get rid of the nuclear stuff, and he's calling what he did regime change already. I think it's premature. But he should at least let Israel do what they want to do. And when Israel bombed their oil, their refineries, whatever they did, gas, and he condemned Israel, he basically held Israel back. And it's very concerning. Now,
By the way, when you say held Israel back, I hope you're referring to Biden, right?
Well, obviously there's no comparison, but the point is that when Israel hit that energy area, then Trump told them to stop, not to do it again, and then Trump warned them that if they attack and hit the other people, that he'll hit even without Israel. He'll go after them. Meanwhile, you got that refinery in Haifa that was hit. You had one of the Gulf states; they also got hit there. Energy area.
So Robert, we got it. What do you want him to do?
Well, Mark Levin very pointed out that they should be arming the Iranian people so that they could fight back on their own. That's
Robert, don't you think that's going on? Whether President Trump's ever going to say that or not, I bet you the CIA, is absolutely doing that so they can rise up at the right moment, because surely President Trump does not want that. To your point, that's exactly the case. He doesn't want to leave and then suddenly goes back to square one. So I agree with you. I think he absolutely is trying to take some steps to arm them and to get them ready and get them prepared. He has to be. And the other question is, we didn't hear remember at first we heard a lot about the Kurds maybe coming in, and then it sounded like the Kurds were kind of backing away. Who knows? Maybe there's some other planned, cavalry coming in to assist the good people of Iran to help rise up. And maybe there's special forces. Maybe there's a whole bunch of things that we will know about, or maybe never know about, or find out a few years down the road. But I don't think he's thinking, okay, we're just going to leave them there. He's definitely going to supply them with some sort of weaponry and make sure it gets to them, whether it comes to the U.S. or whether some other group brings it in. There's no doubt. So Robert, hold on. Let me just ask you, tomorrow night, what do you want him to say? Let's just talk short term. What do you want him, now that we just heard he's going to be addressing the nation? It will be the first time. I mean, he addresses the nation 10 times a day when he takes reporters' calls, because he really does, to his credit. He is by far the most accessible president I think I have ever seen. And I've covered a lot of them through the years, Robert. But what do you think he needs to say tomorrow night? Just keep it focused on that short term.
I mean, maybe he's just giving an update. I'm not sure how that would be different than, what, Marco Rubio does and Pete Hegseth does. I'm not sure. Personally, I'm not going to be able to listen to his speech tomorrow because it's a Seder night. It's my Passover observance.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But Rita, I just want to point, you had on your program tonight in Katz and Cosby, you had a brigadier general, and he pointed out that he believes he's concerned that NATO is its final days. He said that these countries, they're pulling out of the U.S. interests. He mentioned their climate change, they're deindustrializing Ukraine, and they're not facilitating an end to the conflict. And he didn't mention it because he got cut off, but he's probably going to also mention about the Islamization going on in the NATO. So now Israel has a situation.
Robert, I don't think he's going to use tomorrow about that. He will probably say, hey, NATO, you got to step up. There is no doubt. And whether he calls it the Islamization or the appeasement or the Neville Chamberlain of NATO, one of those things I'm sure will come up, because he clearly is frustrated that they have just completely dropped the ball. And he feels like now that the Strait of Hormuz, which is clearly to their benefit much more than America's. I mean, you got to admit that. There is no doubt that the Strait of Hormuz has so much more European oil and Asian oil and Middle Eastern oil coming through there that they need it much more than we do. And the fact that NATO, it's been stunning to me to see the UK. My parents met in London, you guys. I mean, it's like UK is a part of so much of America's history, the forging of the two countries working together for the greater good. And this UK prime minister is a wimp, an utter wimp. And it's pathetic how much he is just folded like a cheap suit. And sadly, some of the others that I expected to rise up a little more have not delivered either. And there will be a reckoning. I mean, clearly they're going to say, hey, President Trump, we need to talk to you about this. He's got, I'm a little busy. Or I'll come, but I'm not going to give this. I'm not. Why would President Trump sadly help them for many things that have been much more favorable to them and much more needed to them? I'm not necessarily a tit for tat person, but I do believe that President Trump has a point that when he really needed them, and he wasn't asking a lot at that point, they didn't come through. And you can bet President Trump will not forget that. So I'm sure he'll address that tomorrow night, Robert, for sure. Everybody will continue after the break. Big news night. President Trump will address the nation tomorrow night on Iran. What do you think he needs to say? And especially a lot of the naysayers will be able to hear it for the first time. 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go back to your calls. Joaquin is back by popular demand on line 4. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Good evening, Rita. I hope that this is better.
Yes, you are crackle free. I heard crackle, backle, Cracker Barrel. I used to see Cracker Barrels in college, so I have an affinity for them. So go ahead.
Okay. You know something? Yes, President Trump really needs to make it clear how important this is really for national security and even global security in the region. And, but I'm concerned mostly about actually sabotage from within our own country and from NATO in regards to this, as far as people being critical of it. I think that there are many that want this whole thing to fail just so that, we can lose the midterms and even possibly, the president in 2028. And,
Joaquin, I agree with you. And how sad is that we are at a place right now where they would prefer to undermine, American might around the world, undermine getting rid of a terrorist regime. I sadly agree with you. I think a year or two ago, I would have gone, oh, that's crazy. Maybe we all would have thought maybe a year or two, but crazy has a new level of craziness now. And some of the people on the radical left, when they wouldn't stand, do you remember that moment in the State of the Union address when they would not stand and they were asked, will you put, American citizens, will you agree? Will you stand up if you put Americans above illegal immigrants? And they did not stand. Remember, all the Democrats sat. That to me spoke volumes. Do me a favor, Joaquin. I'm going to hold you over. Is that okay? I want to make sure we continue the conversation because you always have so many great points. And we're going to a break right now, but we will continue right after this. And I think I sadly agree with Joaquin. I think many would like to undermine America just because they have Trump derangement syndrome.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Next up, a laughing session from the Laughing Cow. Now, unpeel a wedge of the Laughing Cow light spreadable cheese, a delicious snack with 2 grams of protein and 25 calories per wedge.
Hey there, it's me, John Stamos, in partnership with Cologuard. And a little birdie told me you're over 45. Listen, that's not old, it's really not. But it's an important age. If you're at average risk, that's when you start screening for colon cancer. And look, it's okay to be nervous, but it's not okay to ignore your own health. It's time to see if the Cologuard test can be an option for you to get screened. All right, I'm glad we had this little chat.
Holiday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Holiday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Holiday. Holiday, bring it on.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm not an actor, just a guy living with prostate cancer. My wife and I face each day head on. We asked my doctor about Xtandi enzalutamide.
Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat starts swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache.
Visit Xtandi.com to watch my story.
Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this big segment here from Back the Blue coming from Texas, where body cam footage from police in Texas showed some very chaotic moments recently as officers worked to scan rooms for people to help them escape from a massive motel fire. Very scary. It happened at a Studio 6 motel. Now, once on the scene, officers immediately jumped into action. As soon as they arrived there, they helped to evacuate people from the burning rooms to get everybody out of harm's way. You could see the officers locating a man who was lying completely unconscious on the 3rd floor, where the man had nearly collapsed just outside of a burning room. Working together, the officers pulled people in the motel one by one out safely. The chief of police said, in addition to our brave officers, also brave firefighters and so many others all went above and beyond the call of duty, rushing toward the flames to get everybody out. Apparently, every single person did get out, got out safely. Some of the officers did have severe smoke inhalation. They were taken to the hospital to be treated, but are expected to make a full recovery. And boy, thanks to our men and women in blue who really are heroes among us. Well, we're going to get to Joaquin in 1 second here. I wanted to play this clip. This is from War Secretary Pete Hegseth talking about how President Trump right now is leaving all options on the table. And he's really sort of following 2 paths. The one is, yes, I'll talk to Iranians, the quote, reasonable ones, if there are any, that I will try to negotiate peace. I'll always try to look at peace first. And then on the other hand, a parallel path, I will also look at the military and bring in massive military might. So here is what War Secretary Pete Hegseth said this morning at the Pentagon.
As far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do. But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the podium.
I love that. We want our opponents to think there's 15 different ways we can come at them, and there are. Knowing Trump, there's probably 55 different ways, and he's thought of all of them, and he's thought of a lot of them for decades because he has thought about getting rid of terrorism for a long, long time, as opposed to sending pallets of cash in the middle of the night, like some other presidents have done. But as we were just saying, it's like the Democrats, it's like they're rooting for him to lose, which is meaning America should lose. That's why this is such a disgrace. Not only is it, I think, listen, I was not necessarily a fan of a lot of things that Joe Biden did. You guys know that. But I always wanted the president to do well because I wanted America to do well. And I was so infuriated when I saw his dismal withdrawal from Afghanistan. It was an embarrassment. It was horrible. If Trump had done it, I would have done the same thing. I would have said the same thing. But Trump didn't do it because he wouldn't leave Afghanistan that way. It could not be more night and day in terms of foreign policy and also domestic policy, too. But here is Jim Hines. He is a Democrat from Connecticut, and this line is absolutely disgraceful. Remember, we heard from John Brennan not that long ago, who was saying, I trust Iran. Remember, over President Trump when it comes to negotiations? That was disgraceful. He's a former CIA director. And listen to what Jim Hines, Democrat of Connecticut, just said about negotiations with Iran.
You said that the president's not really negotiating with Iran. Is that because you haven't been briefed as a member of Congress on the diplomacy, or you think he's flat out lying?
Oh, I think he's flat out lying. Last Sunday when he was told, and by the way, we're in exactly the same position today, oil prices now $112 a barrel and, futures in the stock market down 2%. Last Sunday he realized, oh my God, I've got a financial cataclysm on Monday. So he just made it up that they're in negotiations with the Iranians. Look, underneath that statement, the Iranians have now realized that they have the reins. They are controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Gasoline prices are up more than $1 a gallon. And so the Iranians realize, holy smokes, we've got a lot of leverage here.
It's only been a little over 3 weeks. And this guy is sitting here saying, oh, holy smokes, boy, oh boy. I mean, this is ridiculous. Where was he during everything with Ukraine? Where was he with everything tied to Biden and the way he handled things? What about the withdrawal of Afghanistan? Was he embarrassed at the way Biden pulled that out? That was ridiculous. And yet here it's only been 3 weeks and he's already saying President Trump is lying. This really, it's un-American. It's truly un-American. Let's go to Joaquin back there in Pennsylvania, line 4. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Rita, if there's any reason, any war that is righteous, it is this one. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm sure as far as boots on the ground goes, I bet you if you called for volunteers and only sent volunteers there, you would have more than enough to do it. Who believe in this. But, the thing of it is that I listened to a program on Sunday. I will not name any names, but, there was a war hero on the program as a guest, okay, a former, military officer, and, of course, with these credentials, and he's basically trashing the whole operation and President Trump for doing this, So, unfortunately, even when it comes down to people who are military and former military, you have political, views that are clouding their, their vision as to what needs to happen.
Yeah, and by the way, there are a lot of those. I mean, if you look at some of these, You look at, I brought up MS Now. I mean, if you go to MS Now, you hear them constantly trashing Trump, on there constantly. And if one person says something positive, they chime on that person, so that, every I guess, type of job, no matter even if it's military, there will be people who bring in politics or their personal views.
Exactly. And you can refer to me as your wingnut job, Joaquin, because, unfortunately, as far as conspiracies go, we'll go now to the general, retired Major General.
Oh, yeah, that's a wild story. Now, tell everybody, because this is is this the one who testified and suddenly, poof, disappeared?
Yeah, he was associated with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and which is associated with UFO lore, and he was apparently, big into that. But then you had 3 other people that disappeared also. One was actually shot, but you had Melissa Casillas. She was with the Los Alamos National Laboratory. She was associated with him, and also Monica Reza. She disappeared while hiking with friends. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it
is interesting. All these missing scientists and generals. So what do you think it's about? Because a lot of these are tied, obviously, to the Major General had just testified, I believe, also tied to UFO. And some of these others were involved in, as scientists tied to missile testing, super secret programs with the United States. So do you believe it's all just a crazy coincidence? It is interesting. It is troubling.
It's too much of a coincidence because they all have connections to the retired Major General.
Yep.
And he took his .38 special revolver and his hiking boots and left behind his wallet, phone, prescription glasses, and other wearable devices. And it sounds to me like he's being set up, for another case of Epstein, And as far as these conspiracies go, I want to go back to another one, which blew me away a long time ago. I talked about this on another program. In 2014, there was a Malaysian Flight 17 that departed Amsterdam, headed for Australia. Okay, and this was supposed to be for an AIDS conference, but there were 50 scientists on board, and their specialties were infectious diseases. This was all prior to COVID, and that plane was shot down over Ukraine.
Right, I remember that. I remember that story.
So I'm sorry, but there were things, people working against Western civilization is all that I can say, and this has to be found out. And President Trump has to get out there and present this to the American people that this is the right thing that we had to do, to go in there and take Iran out, basically, and hopefully make a change. And, a lesson to all these little leftists out there that are running around, if you look at the photographs and any video from 1979 when they overthrew the Shah and, they brought in their theocratic Islamic government, all of these young people were all for it, and they got exactly what they asked for.
Yeah, and here we are. And here, you're right. You look at the moment in history. One of the things I thought was extraordinary, by the way, as you speak about the Shah, I was watching the Shah's son, who was speaking over the weekend in CPAC. I don't know if you saw it, Joaquin, but it was so powerful to see him say, it's time to make Iran great again. And he said, I'm ready to return when the moment is right. I'm ready to go. So we'll see where all this ends. But it is very troubling to see them working against the president. And my fear when I see this with these, radicals that are doing it, but they're really ruling that party. When I see that group, it is so troubling, Joaquin. It is so unbelievably troubling that they're dominating the conversation, especially, and the other Democrats are just allowing it, not saying, whoa, what are you talking about? It's like they will do anything. And it's like President Trump could cure cancer. He could cure, all the different cancers, and they'd still say, oh, that's terrible. I mean, they've already said they'd put illegals over Americans. They're undermining the president of this. They're undermining anything that he does. They will undermine. ICE is terrible. Law enforcement's terrible. They're horrible. They're the worst. And yet there are a lot of people that get indoctrinated by this. And you saw a lot of them out at the No Kings rallies. That's why I think, again, going back to tomorrow night, I think it's an important time because sometimes, it's sometimes the only time that sometimes people hear from the president of the United States, unlike MS Now, because a lot of times they dip out. Remember, they're famous for saying, "Oh, let's correct them here. Let's correct them." They'll probably still do their quote fact checked, and I put it in air quotes afterwards. But I do think that it's a time for him to really address the American public and the common sense Americans, maybe not the loony politicos, but the common sense Americans that are at home going, that makes sense, to get rid of the worst regime in the world. And as you so aptly described, a righteous war. And I think, you said, Joaquin, you said a really beautiful thing and a powerful thing at the beginning there, that if it was a volunteer military, that people would just say, yeah, sign me up. I'm ready. And I thought that was just beautifully said, because I do think that Americans overall do truly understand it, do truly appreciate it, and do understand why this fight is important. And that's why I also do hope that President Trump doesn't feel the pressure that he's got to get out earlier than necessary, but doesn't stay too long. It's a fine balancing act, right?
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it would be interesting if the Strait of Hormuz was renamed either the Strait of America or the Strait of Trump.
Yeah. And remember, it sort of slipped the other day. It slipped that it was the Strait of Trump. Who knows? Who knows? It may end up there just like, the Gulf of America. It could be the Strait of America or the Strait of Trump's America. Maybe he'll combine the two of them. Joaquin, thank you very, very much. It's always great to hear from you. Let's go to Dennis in the Bronx. Line 5. Go ahead, Dennis. Your thoughts.
Hi, Rita. And Rita, everyone should say a prayer thanking God we have Donald Trump as our president. Only he could stand up for America against Iran. A Biden would be useless, or Kamala Harris. Also, I would ask a prayer, all your listeners, that President Trump's speech tomorrow will change their views on this tragedy. Rita, in my neighborhood, Mace Avenue in the Bronx, they're building the New York State's largest mosque. The more you dig into this Muslim religion, it's like a cult. A 30, 40-year-old man can marry a 9-year-old girl and have up to 4 wives. In my neighborhood, these Muslim women are all walking around with burqas on. They can't look at you. It's a cult, this religion. And I believe in live and let live. You want to be a Hindu, you want to be a Buddhist, Christian, whatever, Jewish, fine. But this religion, Muslims, people have to wake up and understand what it is. They hate Christians. They hate Jews. And they are a force to deal with now. Like I said, in my neighborhood, I'm going to have the New York State's largest mosque. And thank you, Rita, for the good fight that you do on the radio and on TV. I watch you on Saturdays, too.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis, very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And everybody, by the way, I want to play this clip because it kind of goes to what Dennis was talking about. It's a real short clip here. This is cut 13. And Dennis was talking about sort of some of this being a cult. There is a guy who's running for Senate, for the U.S. Senate in Michigan. And it came out that after the Supreme Leader was killed, he was telling people on a call, don't talk about it because some of my constituents are sad that the terrorist leader was killed. Listen to this.
So, this is going to destabilize the region. I also want to remind you guys that there are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I just don't want to comment on Khamenei at all. I don't think it's worth even touching that.
That's amazing. I don't want to talk about the Supreme Leader, one of the worst people on the face of this earth in modern times, getting killed today because some people are sad that he was killed. What does that say about America, guys? Wow. To Dennis's point, have we lost it? Have we lost some of the values of America? Are we losing? 1-800-848-9222. And we will continue your calls after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ninja One understands that IT teams today are stretched thin, trying to manage too many disconnected tools. So they built a platform that brings them all together. Ninja One unifies endpoint management, autonomous patching, backup, and remote access into a single intelligent platform. That means fewer tools, lower costs, higher efficiency, and a team that has the bandwidth and confidence to stay ahead. Unify IT to simplify work with Ninja One. Learn more at ninja1.com.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
At IKEA, your dreams can come true. Well, maybe not the ones where you're being chased by a monster. We're talking about kitchen dreams. And there are IKEA products and solutions for all of them. Whether it's a whole new kitchen, a statement glassware set, or just new cutlery. If you got big dreams or small dreams in any size of budget, IKEA can help you bring them to life. Visit IKEA.us/dreamkitchen to learn more. Dream the possibility.
If you're chasing data down instead of seeing it in one place, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite. All your data in one place with built-in AI for real-time insights. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, we will talk more about President Trump now addressing the nation tomorrow night. We will definitely talk about it, I'm sure, tomorrow night after the speech. And also, in addition to all of that, I just played that clip. I can't believe it. This guy who was running for U.S. Senate candidate, he is a Michigan Democrat, Abu al-Said of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And you just heard the leaked audio where he said, we don't want to talk about the death of the supreme leader of Iran because a lot of people are very sad about that. Who's sad? If you have a brain, are you sad about that? You got to be kidding me. And we'll get some reaction. Guess who also he's been hanging out with, that guy? He's been hanging out with Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker is the same guy who said, America deserved 9/11. See, I said it. And he's the same guy who's been hanging out with Zoran Mondani. Are all the dots connecting to you? Do you hear where all the dots are leading? I hear it. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Reggie in Texas on line 3. Go ahead, Reg.
Oh, first of all, Miss Rita, not to drift too far from my original point. I think Dennis hit it on the head. This country was built on the whole melting pot theory, and it's been successful for, we'd say, about 240 years. But the last 10 years, we've gotten, or probably longer, we've gotten away from the melting pot. We've gotten to the separate dishes for everyone. You can't walk around, you can't bring the life that you left behind because it was not good and bring it to this country where the opportunities and life is better than anywhere else on the planet. We don't get people like that anymore. And unfortunately, we've got people in this country who just hate Trump beyond belief. You played that bite from that congressman. He's not alone. They all share that. As far as being anti-American, they've been saying anti-American since they called him a Nazi and a fascist. That wasn't acceptable before. You and I, Rita, we're close to the same age. You remember when a politician or a former president would go to another country and he wouldn't speak ill of what was going on in this country. We totally disrupted that. And this was going to be my original point. Tomorrow night, I believe Donald Trump is going to announce that the United States has men on the ground in Iran that have taken possession of certain things, whatever those things are, territory, equipment, whatever. I think
enriched uranium.
Yup, enriched. I think he's just been playing a major bluff game. And as far as negotiating, you negotiate through strength. You're not going to negotiate with someone about ending a war when you stop your actions. You have
You're right. You're right. You got to go in with strength. Let's see. It could be a big announcement, Reg. You're right.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?